Hello， 大家好，欢迎回到外媒看中国，我是安博然。Outgoing US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, the woman behind Washington's failed attempt to stop China's technological progress through international sanctions, which spectacularly backfired and sent China's own tech prowess ahead in leaps and bounds, has come out recently and admitted defeat, saying that holding back China's technological progress is a fool's errand. And she's finally admitted what I've been saying on this show for years and years. Instead of doing the old Tonya Harding and trying to smash China's kneecaps, the only way for Washington to compete is to work harder and make the US better. Amazing. Today I'll chat with Professor Warwick Powell about this extremely satisfying development. This is Reports on China. I'm Andy Boreham in Shanghai. Let's get reporting. Outgoing US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, who in September 2021 famously urged Europe to help the US do the good old Tonya Harding on China in order to slow down China's rate of innovation, has finally admitted defeat. After playing an instrumental role in sanctioning China and stopping companies around the globe from selling important computer chips and other technology to China, China fought back like the adult in the room by innovating. Today, I'm joined by Associate Professor Warwick Powell from the Queensland University of Technology and Senior Fellow at the Taihe Institute to talk about this latest development. Professor, just how much did China innovate following Gina Raimondo's tech sanctions?
China innovated in incredible ways. There's no doubt that the restrictions that were imposed on China acted as a catalyst, Andy, to the development, and the speed of development was unheralded. Frankly, had it not been for the restrictions, many observers would suggest that China itself probably wouldn't have put as much effort into developing its semiconductor and technology industries as it actually did. So thank you very much. The restrictions acted as a catalyst, and we are here today where China is pretty much on par with American technologies and, in fact, is leading the way in many other sectors.
Thank you, Gina Raimondo. Now, her attitude towards slowing China's innovation was really, well, I would say quite evil. But now she said, and I quote, "The only way to beat China is to stay ahead of them. We have to run faster, out-innovate them. That's the way to win." So why have they suddenly realized that hurting China is a quote-unquote fool's errand and that that the US needs to up its game and compete fairly?
Well, because it's a fool's errand, and the results speak for themselves. Chinese technology has developed in leaps and bounds in various aspects of the very complicated supply chain for semiconductors. Chinese companies have now stepped up to the plate and have quite clearly weathered the storm. China is capable of producing the semiconductors that its industries need, right down to some of those that are more or less at the cutting edge of current technology. And most expect that within the next couple of years or so, China's domestic capability in those cutting edge areas will reach global standards in any case. The obvious answer, I think, to the question that you posed is that the United States has realized that this particular strategic approach has not delivered upon the promises. The sad part about all of this is that the issue isn't about competing with other countries per se. It's actually about pursuing the best that you can possibly achieve on your own terms. How do you become a better version of yourself tomorrow through investments in people and innovation and capabilities? That's really the challenge, and it speaks volumes about the mentality of a country that it can't think about its own objectives in terms of advancing itself, but has to continually frame them in the context of how it stands in relation to others.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because obviously Raimondo is on her way out with the new government starting next month. So do you think that this change in attitude and a willingness to kind of agree that honest and fair competition is the way to go will carry over into the Trump administration?
Well, I think that's one of the open questions. It's whether or not the Trump administration will double down on the approaches that were adopted by the Biden administration. But let's not forget the Biden administration adopted this kind of broad strategic approach largely as a continuation of the environment and approach created by the first Trump administration. So in many regards, I think the probability is that the second Trump administration will extend the kind of initiatives and directions that the Biden administration undertook. And it will do so on the basis that the Biden administration were failures in execution, and therefore doubling down is what's needed to make America great again.
Now, in your opinion, Professor, why is it that the US has been so desperate to smash China in the kneecaps? I keep using the Tonya Harding analogy, but I think it fits here. Is China really that much of a threat?
I think this is a function of the emergence of a chronic case of displacement anxiety. The fact of the matter is that in the last 10 years or so, America's unquestioned position as the world hegemon has diminished, so much so that most scholars now recognise that we are now well and truly in a multipolar environment. Now, a multipolar environment, as opposed to the unipolar world that the US dominated for the best part of the last 3 decades, has created a massive amount of displacement anxiety amongst America's political and economic elite. They see China as an easy fall guy, and in fact, it goes back well over 100 years insofar as American anxieties towards China itself, and a perspective that sees China and Chinese lower down on the pecking order. Let's not forget the Chinese Exclusion Act of 100 or so years ago in the United States. This is just another expression of a very similar cultural predisposition that exists in the American body politic.
Last question today, Professor. Do you think Raimondo's admission of defeat, and I think that's what it is, will be welcome news here in China, or do you think they'll just keep innovating and being less reliant on foreign technology after this hideous episode?
Look, I think most in China will take it, on their shoulders. They will see this as a recognition that China's efforts and commitments over the past 4+ years has delivered on the aspirations of being more autonomous and independent and ultimately technologically more sovereign. This really is an encouragement to continue working hard to advance the capabilities of one's own industries and one's own enterprises, as well as in how these technologies become part and parcel of economic and social life. So rather than seeing this as an opportunity to have a, quote, victory lap, unquote, I think many people who have their feet firmly on the ground will see this as a validation of the efforts that have been put into date, and therefore a confirmation of the need to continue the effort.
Professor Warwick Powell, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts today.
A pleasure.
And on that note, that will be it for today, you guys. But as always, I'd love to know what you think, so do let me know down below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.